Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. I'm today's host, Dr. Peter Boulden. With us, we have Dr. Craig Spodak. And we are super fired up to have one of our role models on the podcast, Dr. Marc Cooper. Dr. Cooper's career includes practicing as a private practice periodontist. You've been in academia, you've been a researcher, you've been an author, you've been a teacher, you've been a practice management consultant, corporate consultant, trainer. Literally, like I said before we hit record, Dr. Cooper's bio would take up most of this podcast. Craig and I know Dr. Cooper personally and are good friends. And literally, when I look at the dentists who are kind of futurist and ahead of the game and just have their head on tech and where our world is headed as it relates to the context of dentistry, Dr. Cooper is someone I look up to. And actually, I got involved in the DEO organization, Dentist Entrepreneur Organization, because of the content that I started reading about what Dr. Cooper was publishing. So welcome to the podcast, Marc. Appreciate you being here. I've been looking forward to you being on for a long time.
As I said in the beginning, I'm talking to good people. And that comes with a set of ears that's really interesting to talk to because it's not what most dentists want to hear. So my audience, although passionate and I think accurate about the future, is not being listened to on a large enough basis at this point, which is an advantage to you guys because first movers always have an advantage. But we're coming, do you know what the adoption curve is, you guys?
No, I mean,
somewhat. So there's a curve that is with a big hump in the middle, and one said it's innovators, and then it's early adopters, and then it's middle adopters, then it's late adopters, and then it's laggards. You probably have seen this 100 times. And in between early adopters and middle adopters, there's a little chasm that exists and if you get over that, it's called the tipping point. And Malcolm Gladwell had a book about it, and everyone's kind of knows that term. We're past the tipping point in terms of the future. It's going to happen, and dentists really don't know what that means. And they're unprepared for it, and therefore they're resistant to it, which makes it difficult. But it won't matter now because we're over the hump. We're over the chasm. We're the middle adopters. People are going, oh man,
the tipping point of what specifically? Just all of kind of tech, or like the tipping point of what exactly?
Well, everything actually.
Okay.
So if we take a look at how dentistry is delivered, DSOs are over 20%. Private practice is shrinking at about 7% per year. The systemic issues about taking care of people and their oral health is getting really loud in the background. People are taking it on as an opportunity now. They're building businesses around that particular interface. It's pretty cool what's happening. So nothing will be the same. In a dental office in the near future, the patient will come in and you will be doing the vitals. It won't be a nurse practitioner. It will be one of whoever you hire to do that. You'll need to be able to afford to do that and figure out your business from that angle as well, because you're going to be much more interconnected with the medical system. It's got to go that way. It's obvious.
Yep.
Can I share some stories?
Please.
Okay. In dental school, I had an incredible radiology professor. His name was Lorne Catino. And I loved Lauren. He was just a great teacher, and he loved radiology. And it was just great to be with someone who cared about what they do like that in dentistry at that point in my life. And we would be looking at x-rays together, and he would all of a sudden say the words. He said, tyranny of the obvious. And I was like, whoa, once he pointed it out, it was obvious. It was like, well, there's the radiolucency. I didn't see that before. I think that's where dentists are. They don't see the obvious at this point.
Yeah, there's another comment, by the way. It's called the tyranny of the how. And everybody's caught up in the how and not, they're always caught up in the process of it. They don't see the bigger picture, which is an interesting tyranny as well. But Marc, I want to acknowledge you for something. I was just thinking about this because you were doing what would widely be considered as podcasting many moons ago. What was that show that I was on with you? Maybe 8 or 10 years ago. It was the
what works, or no,
no,
something.
it was an audio show that I did, and
the Listen Up series.
the Listen Up series. Yeah. So I mean, how long ago was that?
Oh, I don't remember ages. I mean, I don't know. It just felt, people need to start listening to other people besides me. I don't have any potency. It's like, okay. It was obviously.
That was a rudimentary podcast, actually. It just didn't have the vehicle. It didn't have the vehicle to disseminate to the public, but it lived on your website.
I didn't monetize it, which is even more stupid.
Mark,
we don't monetize this, so we're guilty of that as well. But I remember, like, early on, you and I having this affinity together of just what the future is going to look like. And I want to credit you with the evidence to give me the fortitude to kind of tackle what I did, because you were pointing in the direction of what was going to happen. So I want to acknowledge you for that early on, a decade ago, for giving me that evidence.
On the adoption curve that we just talked about, there's another little piece sticking out on the left-hand side. It's called bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Yes. So, the people that we worked with 10 years ago were paying their dues to do this.
Yeah.
They were what I call trail makers, not trail finders.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing. There's a certain kind of persona that really works in building the future. You guys are the future. And that's what I'm going to be speaking to the Georgia Dental Association on Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah. The trustee.
Where?
God, here's my travel. I will be Friday 9 to, but it's for the trustees. Are you a trustee, or do you know trustees?
No, well, ironically, I'm actually going out to one of your kind of mastermind events that
that would be much better.
Richard Evangelista's.
You should see his show.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah, the guy's a maniac. He's one of the best.
The
Chateau Elan in.
Oh, okay, Brazelton.
Yeah, Brazelton.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Mark, would you classify yourself as a futurist?
Yes.
You would. Okay. Because I'm looking at, I'm going to post this in the show notes. Craig, I just emailed it to you, but it was the newsletter where you basically, it was a prognostication of what's good a dentist in 2032 is going to look like. And here's a lot of the things that are going to prevail in that society. And that actually was what prompted me. I was like, man, we got to get him on the podcast. And I'm looking at these 32, well, I guess there's 26 in this, but I was looking at it and I was like, oh my gosh, like every one of these is almost like a subject matter. And I too am kind of like, I don't know if I'm a futurist, but I definitely gravitate towards those who kind of talk about tech and future and how there's this massive convergence of all these silos of stuff like blockchain and VR and AI and just everything kind of converging, and the speed of disruption is also kind of hitting that. You talk about the tipping point, but it's also almost going parabolic at this point in time, right? Because everything is like, there's a synergy, and I can't describe it very well, but like everything starts coming into the flow of each other, and then they together collectively parabolically accelerate. Well,
there's an actual formula for that.
That's Moore's law you're thinking of.
Yeah.
No, yes, it's Moore's law in its own silo, but I'm saying together when they all start, like, because AI will help VR, and vice versa, right? So anyway, I'm not describing it well.
You're doing okay. You're doing okay.
All right.
I'm getting what you're saying. I'm also going to introduce another aspect to look at this.
Okay.
Because I think everything you said is right, but it's hard to, and you're asking about a futurist, and I want to give you some insight to what that is for myself. I don't know if it's true for anybody else, actually. All these things are coming together, and eventually, do you know what a hologram is?
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's still a mystery to me, but I have some sense about what it is.
I don't know how to make one, but I could recognize one.
Yeah, exactly. And you could take a piece of one, and anyway. So I look from the holograph. Where's all this stuff going, and what will that mean for me, at least in this particular domain? What will it mean to dental practice? I know I had an office. I had 2 hygienists. I had 3 front staff. I had referrals. I had vacuum shit, and I had all this stuff happen. I know. I've been in the trenches, so I know what goes on, and that's a tough job. It's just a tough job. Now, what will make it easier is what I'm looking for, because eventually, one of the advantages that I have is I have spent time in medicine. 9 years of my life we're working with all that stuff. And it's like, wow, look where IBM is with Watson and cancer right now. It's like, oh, that stuff amazes me that they can, and look where we are in cellular biology, and look where we are in immunology, and look where we are in genetics, and look where we are. And you're right, the speed of change is great, but where's it going is also a good place to look from, not towards. So a futurist is able to look towards something, but also from something, which gives them a different perspective of what is going on. Like you said, Peter, I don't know if that got across the bridge, but that's pretty accurate for me. So where is dentistry going? Well, dentistry is going to go where medicine goes. That's an obvious fact. No matter what the dentists say, when you see the amount of investment capital rolling into dentistry now, it says, hey, man, there's something here, and healthcare never goes down in cost. Okay. And dentistry is a laggard. They didn't want to change. Well, it's too bad. We're past the tipping point. Now for a dentist is to confront, how am I going to adjust myself to this change? So you have to look, at least I do. I look generationally. How old are you guys? Peter, you're really young.
42.
Yeah, 40. And Craig?
47.
Yeah, that's the range right now. But then there are guys 55 and 62 and still working. What are they going to do? No one's going to buy their practice. There's news that they're not rolling up declining practices. They don't need to. They can now. De novo can go much faster.
Why? Because they can just steamroll with scale.
Yeah. By the way, steamroll is an interesting word. No, they can build with scale faster than anybody else.
Right, but if they're not acquiring practices that are cash flowing, that you say the 55, 60-year-old guy, they don't want their practice kind of thing, because why?
A lot of different reasons. A single practice is a pain in the ass. Somebody's been doing it for 32 years one way, and you want to change that. That's not an easy change to make. Secondly, you have a staff that's been around them. Some of them, not all of them for sure, shouldn't be there. And so that changes everything. And then the other thing is you look at the resource that's underutilized, which could be new patients' hygiene, doesn't really matter. And you've got to upgrade that, which means putting pressure on it. Then you got to get your people inside. And then you have to make sure your culture gets over there.
It's daunting. I actually, Pete had recommend. I had a practice that was local to me, and the guy's just a total rock star, a great dentist. Everybody loves him. He has no website. He has no outward-facing advertising whatsoever. Despite that, he kills it. He's fee for service, and he's booked up for two months in advance. And I went over to see his systems in operation, and it was so scary with the reversible hydrocolloid and the wires, and there's like no computerization whatsoever. It was such a nightmare that by bringing him into the fold, I would actually ruin him. And so he's just this like beautifully preserved antique, but I don't know what to do with him. He can't function in the modern world.
Let him have patience and compassion, because it too will pass.
Yeah.
That's one of the points here, is that, dentists are resistant to change like all human beings.
Of course.
And changes that are occurring are dramatic. They're not small. They're now, I have people who I know who call me and say the following: 2 Aspens just opened on my block. It's like, oh, how is that for you? Well, how do I do a group practice? And that's their first response. And I go, well, you don't do one. And I go down that tunnel. But yeah, I mean, you could say there's at least the first 2 or 3 innings are over for the game. It's a pretty clear done deal now.
Mark, so I have a question on this then. So if number 23, I'm looking at your email right now, number 23, large DSOs will dominate the market, just like what you're saying now. it used to be the model, though, was a model of acquisition, right? The Heartland model would acquire your practice, move forward. And I'm
it's not a bad model. I'm just saying that models.
I know. I guess I guess what I'm saying is, can you speculate at this point? Do you see more de novos of the Aspens and the stuff going forward, as they see the methodology of acquiring the practice that Craig alluded to was acquiring an antique from a cash flow perspective, but it was really, why would they do that when they have their cookbook systems of scale?
And I would add something here. The runway is really wide right now. And you could put, if you know what you're doing, if you really know what you're doing and get good business acumen around you, so you're not stupid like I am about it. Get a Jake, get someone like that, man. They look from a perspective that allows for much better decision making, and it doesn't take away from the patients. It contributes to the patients because you have more money to invest into taking care of patients, whether it's clinically or any way else. So this is a virtuous cycle that we were in as these companies grow. Now, back to the thing about Heartland. Their model will work, but it won't last forever. No model lasts forever. I was thinking about it. Cars don't have bumpers anymore. I mean, if I brought my dad back and we walked in the street and he, what happened to the bumpers? It would be, okay, they disappeared.
So your dad was from Brooklyn by that accent?
No, pretty close.
No.
A whole other trail. Yeah, he was great. My first master. Really, when I really finally heard him, he got the job done. It's the bottom line.
That's awesome.
Okay. All right. So yes,
they're all. I think to your point though, they're all in very different businesses. Heartland's in a very different business than Pacific. I mean, the commonalities, they all sell teeth and dental services, but it's an entirely different business. And I think we as dentists need to allow for the freedom to understand that we're all in very different businesses. It's like, I know they're all forms of the same, they're all segments of the same industry, but it's inherently wildly different. So
let me ask you a question. You have accumulated knowledge and data about how to run a particular kind of practice.
Correct.
That's what makes you unique in the marketplace and growing continuously. You've got a model that works.
Well, it's
Are you willing to share that knowledge across the board?
That's what I'm doing. I mean, Pete and I just published our book. I lecture constantly. I mean, Mark used to send me people. Like, I remember you probably sent me 15 different dentists. Just like, go talk to that guy. Yeah, exactly. And I talked to all of them, and it was all for free, and that was a decade ago. So
I know. Well, they billed me, so you're okay.
They what?
They billed me. They said, "Oh my God, I was with this guy."
Craig's like, wait, I don't get that.
I know, but it's okay. So you guys are doing great. You're on the crest of the wave.
But okay, and I hear you on that. But I think Craig and I we are committed to the innovation wave, right? Like there's no cruise control on either one of our dashboards, and I think that's something important. As I'm looking, like honestly, I'm looking at your list again. I know I keep referencing this to people, and you can't. See.
I have a question. If people want it, would you forward?
I'm gonna post it. Well, I'm gonna post it and put it in the show notes too. But yeah, maybe there's some other way we can deploy it to folks. But anyway, I'm looking at it, and it's just.
Yeah, I can share my screen, Pete. That's one way that they can see it right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, let me do that real quick.
It's a test for me to remember the 20 things I said.
Well, now you'll be able to see it on the screen. That is not a test. But some of them are very compelling and almost like shockingly obvious. Like, yes, I know that's going to happen, but like, holy shit, how can that happen?
Right.
It's a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen. Like robotics in the future, it's the future of dentistry in 2032. So robotics will place nearly all dental implants, and we've just seen.
I fully agree with that.
We totally have just seen videos where, in China they're already doing that. Now, granted, it was a single anterior implant. It was somewhat human assisted, but
I want you to go to. I can't get back to my screen. Maybe I can. I'll send you another company that's up in Toronto, in which the handpiece is actually somewhat controlled by the robotic, but there's some freedom to use it. So who really places the implant, because the fingerprints are on the handpiece, is the doctors.
Yeah.
But
There's a system by Nobel that's doing that.
That was that company that was at the DEO, and I actually
Yeah.
took a live video of the demo for our social media, and I forget the company now, but anyway, that was like fascinating.
Yeah,
Even I could place an implant.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about going back into perio if I could. Here,
For a
put
second.
on the machine, and yeah, that was the other part. All right, so let's go. Can you get it on the? Let's get it on the screen.
Yeah, share it again.
Let's
Greg.
go down the one. I don't see it, and you should.
Hang on 1 second.
Greg
You'll see
stopped
it now.
sharing because he wanted to see my face.
Oh well, I have that as well. Wow.
Okay.
So number one, AI and orthodontics will displace the need for orthodontists because diagnosis, treatment planning, indirectly bonded bracket placement, and wire bending will all be done by computer. I like everything you said, except already that's outdated. No one's bonding brackets and no one's bending wires. Clear aligner therapy is displacing.
I watched the results, and you can do that. You can move those teeth around, but there's no long-term study. There's no evidence-based. There's nothing here. So you could talk about it because it moves a couple teeth around and makes them pretty. Doesn't mean that it's functional with the TMJ joint and the.
Are you talking about clear aligners versus brackets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Craig, you know, that's his emotional sweet spot right there.
Yeah, but it's I mean, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that you'll have to search very far and wide to find someone bending wires and placing brackets in 7 to 10 years. Very hard. You'll have to find like an 80-year-old.
And I think we're in alignment with this. I think the computerization will allow it to be mostly done by machine and lower paid entities than orthodontists. What will occur for dentists if there's, we're going to go down this track. This could be the rest of the interview right here. There needs to be a fundamental change in the mindset of a dentist about what it means to be a dentist. That's really the bottom line. It's what I work on. It's like, come on, man,
A shift from what to what, if you could put it in a sentence.
Technician to team leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we look at radiology, most radiologists are sitting at home right now in their underwear reading scans. So why would we not presume that, in like just to the example of number one, the orthodontics, why is it not that, I mean, ClinCheck and Invisalign has, qualified people, but they're Costa Rican trained. Why is it not that you'd have a master ended orthodontist doing your treatment plan?
Because I'll tell you why, because dentists make their money from a linear exchange of hands, time to money.
Well,
our living is predicated on us doing something as opposed to just reading something.
Well, you still need to physically sit someone down, snap the aligner, and make sure it's just a different role. It's the same way that 50 years ago we didn't have dental labs, so you'd have to cook your own crown and stuff like that. Even though there's going to be a lot of the workflow that's off-site, robotic, or not done by you, there's still
you will have a human interface.
You have to.
We always.
And it will be better for us because we'll be able to do a lot less of the grunt work, if you want to call it grunt work. The diagnosis, treatment planning.
Well, you won't be doing that.
You won't be.
That will be done for you.
Yeah,
you
great.
Take your clinical data, you will take your images and you will put them in a machine, and the machine will come back with a diagnosis and a treatment plan. And they will also talk probably in 5 years from now, best materials to use. And if robotics takes off it could, we'll see, the handpiece will be informed by what's appropriate for that tooth or that jaw and that person and all of that stuff.
Why do you need a 6-inch handpiece connected to your hand to reach 4 inches back to the back of someone's mouth when you could clip on a micro motor, the same way you have a surgical stent, you'd clip it on and it would just circumferentially buzz around, have its own irrigation and vacuum right there. We have motors to do that right now. For sure we do.
You have a whole other world to build. You love mechanics.
I love that stuff.
Go for it.
I will.
That's quick. Yeah, go build
Hopefully,
it.
I'll be, by the time that stuff is applicable, it'll probably be another 10 years from now. But
Mark, do you see
Okay.
this? Do you see this disrupting the barrier to entry? And what I mean by that is, if essentially our jobs become gamers or computer programming, or then all of a sudden the barrier to entry, maybe then state boards start saying, oh well, now these dental techs can do this work, and it's not this.
I think you're looking again from the bottom up.
Okay,
That's fine.
I have a tendency to do that sometimes.
Yeah. The Federal Trade Commission. So there's 46 million, half the population can't see a dentist. 46%. Systemic disease, you don't take care of that. It costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
You could take a diabetic patient that's $9,000 a year and get his teeth cleaned and have the dentist do the stuff that, and you want to see something really interesting. And I have a wonderful relationship with these guys. You got to see Kaiser Permanente and Permanente Dental Association and what the hell they're doing, because that's got a lot of chunk of the future in it. And, they're integrated. They're an integrated dental system into a medical system, and it works. And they have data to support it. The care gap, that's what they call of a diabetic patient. If they close that gap, how much it saves the system. They've got 23 million on Kaiser. These guys really know what they're doing.
Well, look at Cleveland Clinic, the outcomes, the cost savings, no one's procedure bonus. It's all just, so no one's incentivized by the procedure, and everybody's getting phenomenal outcomes. So they're getting higher reaymbursements.
Absolutely. So if you want to know where dental's going, start looking at the models.
Care models.
Dental hospital complex. Yeah.
But that's what, listen, if the robot becomes viable, and it will become viable, the Yomi or what have you, the sucker's going to be like 400 grand or initially 300 grand. How do these, because right now dentistry, if you look at it at a holistic level, it's a smaller storefront. The DSOs and Wall Street rewards you for having 5 or 10 or 15 $1 million outlets versus one large box of 10 or 15 million. But if technology is really, we're all in agreement here that technology is going to be a disruptor. Technology is expensive as shit. So having 10 locations.
Maybe let's talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, because I think maybe we're forgetting that everything is cloud-based. That means I don't need a lot of shit. Now, I know that I need a printer, and I know I might need this, and I know I might need that. The larger entities, the DSOs who've got the economies of scale will go first. But it will dissipate, and the costs will come down, and it will plateau out a bit more. I really think that solo practice is an antiquated model and it's got no punch for the future. I mean, if I look at it, and I'm an investor, or doesn't even matter, industry-wide, number one, it never loses money. It's always, and half the population needs one, and they're not seeing one. Well, let's see, what should I do? Well, it's obvious. And how to get there more efficiently is really the question, not to change the profit or the cost, so that we can get more margin out of it. That's how people are thinking about the industry at this point. And that's good, the way to think about it, because you get efficiencies. So bigger is more efficient. I think as the data becomes more ubiquitous, if that's the right word, and I have access to it from my 15 locations, and he's got 900, doesn't matter. The playing field gets really level up here. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the great things for dentists is coming is if they can figure this one out together, which they'll never do because I use the word together. If they could figure it out, in a decade, the same data as Heartland. It's going to be cheap comparatively.
You'll have the same, what is Heartland? I'm sorry?
The same data.
Okay, data.
Someone's going to be a data collector of all this stuff. Someone's going to crawl through the internet because everything's in the cloud. Someone's going to, it's machine learning. You know how fast they're going to go?
No, I know, but to that point, the interface is the complex part of any system, the interface. And our interface is a human interface. So we need to put human beings and have the robots and...
You're going to always have the human-patient interface. Does it need to be a dentist? Does it need to be what you think it might be? The role might change. You asked me, in one sentence, Peter said, how would you describe the future? I said, technician to team leader. I mean, I can't, that's what I see. And dentists make lousy team leaders because the hierarchy of how they've been trained is they're at the top and everything goes below them. Walk out into an office and see how a smaller office and see how the dentist is the little prince or the princess. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, we see it.
You know, there's got to be a reverse order. They have to develop a different kind of mindset about what it means to be. They can do more dentistry by not picking up a handpiece. Now, if you want to do dentistry, think about it from that particular perspective. Is, man, you know what? 46% of this doesn't see a dentist. How about if I figure that one out and take care of people? Do dentistry, but you can't do dentistry one-on-one in the same level. You have to get more efficient across. It's a team sport.
But even the way we interface with the public is so freaking antiquated. I mean, you can call Tesla, have Tesla deliver a test drive vehicle to you, order it without ever having to step in a showroom, and have a car within a couple of weeks. In dentistry, in order for you to find out what you want or what you need, you have to jump through so many circuitous hoops of, appointment times and rigid play. And that's why Smile Direct Club, frankly, it's not the product that people think it is, but it's gaining such success because it is so easy, and complexity is the enemy of execution. So if you make something that's easy, even if it doesn't work that great, it's going to be wildly successical. So the argument
for a while.
Well, yeah, but that's why a lot of DSOs are doing so well. Some DSOs are delivering, mediocre care at best, but they've allowed for a really cool storefront and convenient hours, and just on that alone, they can actually have some runway to take off.
I'm going to put a marker here and jump over to another place because I'm about to go to a dental association meeting and talk to the trustees, and the first thing I'm going to get is, we do quality care. I'm going to get that because I get that every time.
So
let me go through my process. I ask everybody in the audience who does not do quality care. Raise your hand. And no one raises their goddamn hand. And I go, oh, isn't that great? Yeah. Okay, so then and this is where because I'm from Philly and I'm an asshole, I go up to someone and say, please stand up. And they go, great. And I said, you do quality dentistry? And it usually starts at absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I take them down because I've spent time with Joanne and continuous quality improvement. And Deming, you can measure it. And so I asked the first question, what do you measure to show that you have quality? What is it? What do you measure? And there's a death silence in the room because that always happens. And then I say, well, tell me, how long do your fillings last? Your MODs last on tooth number 31. And they have no idea. I go, well, how do you know that what you're doing is working? Forget about, quality. Quality means it lasts. How do you know? So that's how I introduce quality assurance. So there's in 10 years, the quality assurance will be pervasive throughout dentistry. Best practices will be pervasive throughout dentistry. Patients, I'm going to get on my high horse a bit. I apologize.
Keep on. I love it.
Patients will get better treatment.
Of course they will.
Yeah, and patients will have better results and longer lasting results. Patients will be diagnosed, including their whole genomic and medical, the whole deal. I mean, they'll be able to look and say, here's what this patient needs dentally, and and insurance is only going to pay for that. So the whole reimbursement system is going to shift to AI and with blockchain. It's got to. Where else is it going to go with all their money?
And the data is so isolated into silos. I mean, the whole study about the correlation between oral health and cardiac health was actually found surreptitiously by the correlation of dental codes and heart disease codes. So like Aetna saw like SRP codes happening, and then 7 to 10 or 15 years later, blocked artery angioplasty codes. And like, oh wait, we can save some money here. Let's pay for the SRP so we don't have to pay for the $10,000 bypass. So that data and the points of data integrated holistically would really be it would be a true meritocracy, because the dentists that are doing it right will actually be reimbursed higher. So right now I'm aggregated into the
I agree.
Dentists. So certain dentists get 3 years out of the crown, certain dentists get 20, and we're all paid the same. It's real bullshit, actually. Cleveland Clinic gets paid a lot more for a hernia operation, and they should. They have a lower level of postoperative complications, and their care path is more efficient. So therefore, if it's performance-based, which everything truly should be, they should get more money.
Hallelujah. Everybody want me? I totally
No, but
agree.
it's great for those who give a shit, because there's wonderful dentists out there that are getting torched on Google right now.
Well, they're going to do.
They'll do great.
Technician to team leader. Team leader also doesn't mean your team internally. It also means your team externally. It means
your community.
Yeah, go out there, be a leader. Demonstrate something. Who dentists are in the world are not people that drill on teeth. They're people that take care of people.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, though. I'm excited for that level playing field. There's so many data points that don't relate to each other, and they should.
They will.
I know. That's
when those little machines start talking to each other at the speed that you cannot even imagine.
Right.
They will come up with queries. They can do that on their own when you really begin to understand AI. It's like, oh, well, maybe I should ask that question, or maybe go over here, because they'll be able to read parallel models that you just mentioned. They'll be able to go to that kind of analogy or relationship and
see correlations that don't even make any sense to you, but will propose an outcome that, like, oh my God, I can't believe those two variables are even related.
This is too perfect a point not to bring over to them why group practice is going to be significantly stronger than individual practice. You just mentioned what would happen when the data points come in and how it adjusts your behavior and your perspective of what you're looking at. Just changes everything. I call that phenomenon a distinction. But so here you now bring in the business aspect. I mean, people who really understand their business, how it works. Jake is a prime example. He understands the nuances and the pieces, and he's got his models. He understands business, and that information that comes adjusts the company differently and the performance levels differently. If I'm a dentist, it just does. And so those guys are going to increase their capacity in terms of being able to get more finite with the information and comparison of data. I'm sure the ADSO is going to figure out a model where all the data dumps, and you kind of what's the best practice, and that use the data as a point of learning. As I started out this conversation, I say the future is a done deal, and dentists need to learn a whole different skill set. They need to understand dentistry. They need to understand how to fix the teeth. They need to understand how to use a perio probe. They need to really be a dentist, but it doesn't mean they need to do dentistry. Mm-hmm. That's a different model to look from. It's like, okay, that's a step on my journey to become a master. I have to become a journeyman first. Okay, what's that look like? That means 5 years at the chair. Okay, or maybe 10. And then you finally really understand what it's like to take care of a patient. I mean, that's a skill set that you learn pretty quickly, or you don't get paid. So you figure that one out. So that's really, you need to understand that, but it doesn't mean you can't have others, if you're a leader, see what you see in a certain way, and then let the machines give them what they give them. That it changes the way you look at it. It becomes a much larger expression. And first of all, I believe it and I want it, which is dangerous to have a belief in a whole thing. Yeah. Boy, I would like to see patients get better treatment than they're getting.
Yeah, me too.
And I like to see the access open up at least 20, 30% more, so you can treat the kids, so you can treat the young adults. I mean, I'd like to see that. And anyway.
I know of a large DSO who will remain nameless because I don't know how widely understood this concept is. That's really pushing the envelope on the medical aspect within dentistry. I know the CEO, and you know him personally. We both know him, and we shouldn't leave this nameless because I don't know unless it's public knowledge. But he's very interested in medical, into the dental into the dental space.
Yes, we have had our discussions, he and I. And this started years ago, a while back.
Yeah, because I had a discussion with him 2-3 years ago about it. But I like that aspect. Of course, I believe this and I want this to happen as well. And I recognize it's a dangerous place because I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid. But the market, Wall Street, is rewarding the aggregation of offices, and that's the primo. So if you have a $20 million complex, I'm not saying I do, but if you had a $20 million dental hospital-like setting, Wall Street would look at that and say, yeah, not really interested. Whereas if you had $21 million offices, they would say, holy shit, this is amazing. This deserves a, 15 EBITDA, just based on that. But if we're all pointing to this idea that robotics, more holistic care, integration of medicine and dentistry, doesn't the large box, the dental hospital, then lend itself to more success in the future? And won't Wall Street start to respond to that as well, or not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think it's got one thing about being a futurist is being willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
And without making yourself wrong. It's like,
well, one of the things about being a business owner is be willing to be flexible and innovative, because everybody's in
and not being scared to be wrong.
Let's say good businessmen. Other ones want to. Part of what's occurring, which is really interesting for me doing this dental entrepreneur thing that I've done for the last 5 years, is to watch the entrepreneurial mindset walk in the room and get discern with my capacity to do that from time to time. What is it that makes these guys successful entrepreneurs? And how can I provide that knowledge back to them so that they have a sense of how to grab it when they need it? Okay. So one of the things is that you lose your, this is where the dental mindset has to change. So here you are, dentist, you go from beginning, middle, and end. Here's the caries, here's the fillet, here's the composite, here's the polish, here's the articulating paper, here's how you're going, beginning, middle, and an end. You as business people, your mindset shifts when you get into business to not a beginning, middle, and end, but forward the action. Move it forward. Keep on moving it forward. Move it forward. If it gets done, it gets done. But if it doesn't get done, we'll move it forward. We'll move it. So you move from a noun-based world, like beginning, middle, and end of this thing, to a verbal world where it's a verbs, where you forward the action. Leaders, entrepreneurs think in action. They think of what they can do, what it will do. They hear the future differently as well, but I mean, they're in action. They're forwarding the action towards something, a vision, a mission, a purpose, a project, doesn't matter. That they forward the action. Dentists want it stable, non-convertible. It's the way it is. It starts every time. I want this car. This will work for me. And in the new world where you have technology taking the technical and administrative parts away, what are they going to be left with? Oh, they can be at the chair, but even that, if they can't use those machines, if they can't use a computer well, if they can't do that stuff, and if they can't team lead, their jobs will be in some jeopardy. As you said, it's going to go to performance-based pay, which also has a lot to do with the outcomes that they're being produced and the longevity of those outcomes. So there's going to be a rating system for dentists, and all that's going to happen. So their isolation is going to break down, whether they're in individual practices or not. Doesn't matter. The computer knows, Siri's picking up this conversation. Forget about your broadcast. She's listening, I'm sure. Hey, Jeff, how's it going, buddy? So it's the world we're in. So
yeah, it makes the guys who are truly focused on outcomes and performance excited, because there is exactly. you could hide. 10 years ago you could just spend a lot of money on advertising saying you're the best, and you know what, you could churn and burn patients like no tomorrow, like literally piss everybody off, but have a steady stream of unsuspecting new clients and just make your money on them. Now, the great equalizer is the information that's available, but it's only available for what people perceive. If you add in the outcomes of the insurance company to it and say, hey, Dr. Jones in Spokane gets 14.6 years of his crown, and Dr. Smith gets 14.6 months, and we're going to direct all the business to them, it's massive. I mean, Invisalign's doing that right now with their scanning centers. So everybody's worried, and I want to hit this on the nail on the head, because everybody's worried that Invisalign is now taking away the business from the dentist. what Invisalign recognized is they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on TV ads, getting patients excited, potential patients excited about straightening their teeth with Invisalign, only to realize that dentists are screwing it all up. We're so inept at closing the deal. Patients come in, I want Invisalign, and we are so inept at that they're opening up these scanning centers where they scan them, get them financially pre-qualified to then say, here, doctor, don't screw it up. They're excited, they're ready to roll, make sure it's okay. We've done everything for you.
Yeah,
Dentists are still worried about that.
Well, let's take another 15 minutes. If I think this is too rich to walk away from. If you take a look at what is occurring in the future, and you look at that holistic picture, and you look at that hologram, some of the beams that are coming in to create an intensity of that hologram is integration, not just consolidation, but integration. So we take a look at, and there's some there's some bad attempts that are out there right now, but it's not going to go away. Guardian has bought 50 dental practices, and they're a pretty good insurance company. They may make it work. They're trying to figure it out, but they're getting close. Because if you eliminate if you can go right to the practitioner and the practitioner comes right to you, you're integrated. So integrated systems reduce the cost. They increase efficiency if well done, and if you can get the cultural mix to work, you're in good shape. So that integration is happening all over the place. Sirona Dentsply, I mean, take a look at it's everywhere. So everything's getting integrated. If we take a look at that, dentists will be much more part of a system than they are isolated practitioners. Whether they be in individual practices or not, you have the insurance company, you have all that other stuff that's being shared, the data's going to the cloud. It doesn't matter if I'm I am in my house, but I'm everywhere in a certain way. Everybody knows because this is being recorded. So there is the isolation to be able to operate number one in a system is what dentists have to learn. They don't do well there. To make the system work better rather than their own advantage is something they're not really good at. So there's a lot of things to be able to reshape, redesign in themselves to be successful in this new future. And some will make it and some won't, but who gets out of dental school and then goes to in 5 years when they know that they have to make money and they have to work and all that goes away and they become adults and all that happens, but they'll be ready for the system because they actually grew up within a systemized way. They grew up in group think. They didn't grow up in I think.
Already they're going that way. When Heartland's sponsoring your freshman orientation, and that message of together stronger or whatever what they're being sold, and plus the millennial mindset of not wanting to own a house, not wanting to own a practice. The shift has already begun for social factors, not just consolidation efficiency. It's behavioral. Behavioral factors are pushing this.
Craig, one of the things that I do is I can't help myself. So I want to propose a little bit of coaching for you. And not that
Sure.
I think it's okay. So you spoke about millennials as though it was all true and that they are all like that. And so what you had is you had a declarative statement in your speaking, and the thing, a couple of things. One is it would soften you up a bit if you spoke more from the place of, hey, this is how I see it. This is how I believe they are, rather than being righteous about it.
Okay. Point well taken.
Yeah, you're a great man, and you got a lot to contribute to this industry. Huh?
Right? It's called gestalt, right?
It's called gestalt. Yeah, be soulful.
In my experience, this is what I've learned, kind of thing, right?
I like this, guys. Should I be lying down for this? Can we go back a little further?
On the bed.
See, an asshole statement like that is why you love Craig, because he's always going to make one of those. You can count on it.
No, listen.
I love it.
It's
his deflection. It's his deflection is comedy. It's comedy.
No. I recognize when you're talking about a massive segment like millennials, you can't, generalize. And I get people all the time that say to me, well, you know how millennials are and blah, 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 and you can't get people to work. And I don't vibe well with that comment, because I know that as a group, as a demographic, there are some commonalities, but everybody's a human being. I recognize that. I do. And I appreciate the coaching.
I appreciate that you could hear it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You can't coach someone unless inherently they are a request to get better.
Yeah, my goal is to actually help. I mean, that's why we're taking time away from our families and doing this. There's no monetization. So anything that would be a subtle cue to help me navigate and land on people so that they can hear me and not be
exactly
reactive to what I'm saying, then it's cool.
We're going to go down a little path and then we're going to come right back out because it gets a little transformational. But what you have to learn as a leader is to manage the listening of people. That's what you have to learn. Not how to talk about it, but how to have them hear you. And so that coaching that I gave you was about, you really, you want to make a bigger difference. That's your world. That's what part of being an entrepreneur is. You want to change the world. I mean, if you don't want to change the world, then go work in a group. But you guys want to change the world, which is fabulous because there's that certain energy. So the more people you can impact, the more contribution you can make. And one of the things I coach a lot is, hey man, learn how to talk to people so they hear you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I think I had a conversation like that yesterday. It's so important. It's what you say and how you occur. And I hope that's not going to foo-foo here, but you can have these great intentions, and if you have a way that doesn't land on people or occurs, it just totally backfires. And it's really, the travesty is not for the listener, but for the person who doesn't have the emotional awareness, because you get frustrated. You're like, why are they not?
We're down here in the tunnel. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just have my closing statement.
Pull us out, Mark. Pull us out of the tunnel.
And let me say it this way. You're responsible for how you are heard.
Yeah.
Period. It has nothing to do with them. You need to figure it out how to make it work over there. That's what a leader does. And, it's like, okay, I need to be heard today. What do I need to say? How do I need to be? What's the behavior that will be appropriate for? How do I get them to hear me? And because listening is way more powerful than speaking. I'll put the dot on that. And we're out of the tunnel. I can see the light here. All right. Any other questions about the future before I kind of?
Well, I love how we kind of covered so much, because literally, we talked about tech and disruption. And honestly, I'm the most uncomfortable I've ever been in terms of what I've heard on a podcast, because humans, I think, go towards self-preservation, right? Change is scary, just like you kind of alluded to. And with so much disruption, and maybe I'm way down all the rabbit holes and I just see all these, the dentist in 32, the year 2032, and I'm looking like, holy cow, like, what about me? What happens to me? What do I do? Right? You get into this. Yes, I'm excited about this cool robot placing an implant, and man, look at these peptides for enamel regeneration and 3D printing and blockchain entering our space for insurance or whatever, right? Like all these different things may happen. And yet you're like, whoa, that's a lot. How do I compete and be relevant in this space?
I'll answer the question.
Please.
Right. You need to, I'll answer in several different cultural ways. One, you need to become a warrior. You need to go battle this thing. It's not going to go away. It's coming at you. It's the dinosaur with the fire-breathing dragon, whatever you want to call it. That is going to happen. That is gravity. It doesn't matter how you jump out the window. You're going to hit the ground. Okay. So here comes this future. And oh man, I don't know what to do. Well, what you do is you take one bite of the elephant at a time. It's what you do. Get yourself in a course, learn what's coming down the pike. If do the thing, go to a group dental meeting and see what they're like. See what group looks like from the outside. Go to one of these things. Go to the ADSO meeting if you can, or the American Academy of Group Practice, or come to our summit. Do something with group, so you get the feel of who are the people that I have to deal with, or whether I go with them or I stay alone or whatever happens. This is a phenomenon that is not going to go away. They're growing. I don't know. Maybe I can learn something here about what to do with my practice. So if I'm an individual provider or even a small partner practice, I'd start looking over there, not over here. I'd stop resisting trying to, hold to the past. The past cannot be rewound, period. You can't play it again. It doesn't work that way. You can't rewind the past. You just can't. So here's this future coming, and I know I need to change. So the first thing, rather than resist, you have to recognize that you need to change. And then find a path for yourself. There's a billion courses out there that you can do. You can go to the Mortis and stuff. I don't care where you go. There are people out there now lecturing crazily about this stuff. Go, start learning. Start seeing, start meeting people. I want to say another metaphor that I use quite a bit is that the future lives in other people's speaking. So I'm listening for what's going on here? What's that future? How did they do it? Hey, you used to have 2 practices, now you're at 7. What did you do? What's it like? You sold your practice to Heartland. What's it like? Start
Engaging in conversations
exactly.
that are okay. I think that's great advice. And I think honestly, we as dentists, maybe I can speak, we have a hard time being humble, and we're very prideful because we are the king of our kingdom, if you will. And it's hard for us to say like, hey, you know what? Like, you do this way better than me. Can you teach me about it? And you imagine getting that, Craig, from someone that you'd be like, heck yeah, I'd love to teach you about this, or vice versa. Man, I'm sure you know something. And I don't see that happening because I think we live in these islands of.
The islands will be congealed into a mainland soon. And that's going to be done by artificial intelligence and blockchain. You're going to have to respond in a way that you never responded before by adapting the way you deliver dentistry to what the technology is now delivering. You've had to do that from the beginning, from going to digital x-ray. I mean, you had to adapt.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a matter of expanding the capacity to adapt. And you can't do it yourself, so you have to move, as we said over and over in this call, from technician to team leader, learning how to lead teams, your team or larger teams, but you have to learn how. That's a skill set. It's not about a command and order chief of, it's here's the order, take it, hygiene, go do this. You need to figure out how to really.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be a paradigm shift, and we'll kind of end it on that. But I think, maybe that's been said time and time before, but it seems like, Craig, it's not too much, dentistry is not too much different than the way your father practiced. Am I right? Like, meaning that there's a head, there's one, yes, there's different tech, but the way Marc is describing it is kind of categorically different than the current model.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I'm not sure a whole lot really changed from like my dad graduating dental school in like the early 1960s all the way through like the 90s. Like, materials changed, but there was no categoric shift for the patient perception.
Right.
We were excited about glass ionomer, but did it make a difference to the patient? No. We were excited about a new acrylic, but there's still 2 visits. Now, everything's disrupted because convenience, access to care, technology has shifted the way the patient interacts with that. And once the consumer sees it, they can't unsee it. So
I have a nickname, so I don't think it's totally consumer. The relationship to the patient, God, I'm getting a little late. The relationship you have to a doctor is different than the relationship you have to a salesperson. Mm-hmm. So you have to recognize that right away. So if a salesperson, I feel that I'm somewhat dominant in the relationship. In the relationship to a doctor, they're more dominant. So there's a difference in terms of how I see that relationship. Now, what's occurring is the consumer is beginning to drift into the patient space. So the patient still has that kind of relationship with the doctor, but now it's way more consumer thought driven. So I have given a name to this hybrid. I call it Pat-sumer. It's a combination of the patient and a consumer. That's a different breed than a consumer. And no one in marketing that I know about has really thought this thing through as what is the relationship I need to offer to patients such that they trust us, That's really the key to the whole deal, man. That's the ace of spades in the whole card. It's like, okay. So that's a whole other area where dentists don't spend enough time in two areas. One is working on that, and the other is working on themselves. All right, guys.
Man, that's awesome. All right, man. Yeah, so much there, Mark. I appreciate your time. I think, Greg, we're gonna chop this up into two parts, and at some point, Mark, let's do a follow up because I think it'd be cool to
you might have to write a check on the next one.
Oh yeah. All right,
I could probably submit my through medical for coaching and psychological evaluation. So,
well, Mark, I'll be respectful of your time. Appreciate so much for everything, and we're so glad to have you on. Can't wait to see you soon.
Okay, buddy. You take care.
All right, man. Take care.